All right.
Thank you.
Get
So,
serious.
what happened last game?
Good decisions were made. Upon touching base and getting a sit rep from Sorrow, Gren Taldori, and Kynan, it was decided that Kynan and Gren would head back to Whitestone, the method by which was a teleportation circle made by Seamus. During that time, Kior and Felian chatted with the three, basically to get their ideas and straight and get a feel for what's going on, and to get their cover stories together. It was decided that Sara would travel with us until such a point that I forget the name of Avias's airship.
The Revenge.
The Revenge? It was the Revenge. Until she could rendezvous with the Revenge. She suggested that she would follow us to the Torian Woods?
Mm-hmm.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
Nope, that's right.
Alright, the Torian Woods. This is what I get for not taking notes. Where she would camp out and wait while we carried on with our adventure. It was a good tentative plan. It needed some work, but it would get her out of Amon and get us back on track, and we were cool with it. So we left the city, deciding not to go after the class because that was a fool's errand, more of a time sink than anything else at that point. And so we headed out of Amon. We successfully got out without being spotted, to our knowledge, got our way into the plains, not spotted, to our knowledge. Some of us scouted ahead, and we encountered a farmhouse long since, well, not abandoned, but the only resident had died by means of daylight spell, preventing themselves from turning. They was given a proper burial in the morning after we thoroughly raided the place. After the funeral in the morning, to thank and put to rest the former farm owner, we continued to head northeast toward the woods. At some point, Sorrow and I moved ahead, to scout ahead, of course, and came across the sound of music, of all things. We investigated, discovered that there was a traveling camp of refugees, and upon approaching, found that it was warded or otherwise protected by a magic, preventing people from getting close to it. Being the gnomishly gnome fellow that Macklin was, he successfully resisted the charm, investigated the area, and, as luck would have it, ran into a former associate of his named Lolan, a halfling that he had escorted from the Murdoon Mines,
Mm-hmm.
a small town from the Murdoon Mines. A person he met during a job. He introduced, or Macklin introduced Sorrow to Lolan, got her some new clothes, bartered a little bit for it, and decided to leave her with the refugee camp in order to backtrack and grab his friends so they could also come and check out the refugee camp, because it makes sense for everyone to come to the refugee camp. It's such a wonderful place. Upon hearing of this, everyone kind of panicked, thinking the worst, and they grilled Macklin, causing him to second guess his choices upon leaving Sorrow there with the group of nomads. That's about where we left off.
Be fair, Felian did not grill you or tell you you were an idiot.
I appreciate that.
Neither did Cure. She just kind of insinuated it might not have been wise to leave someone wanted in the presence of strangers.
Well, we all have dump stats.
Apparently, common sense is Macklin's. I would add that in response to Cure helping see to the uh, proper burial of the, or proper cremation of the farmer whose residence we stayed at, she was her one of her items leveled up, and she now has a special ability.
Yeah, the Raven Queen liked what you did.
Just paladin it up.
I think that's a paladin spell or a cleric spell.
I think it's a cleric spell.
Traditionally, it's a cleric spell. But you guys know I play fast and loose with rules.
No.
Hey, if it fits.
I think I may have built my paladin wrong in a different game. Whoops.
No, you're good. If nobody noticed, who cares?
Alright, Seamus, Ice, do you have any input about what happened last game?
I mean, everyone was all on ice about let's hurry up and get going. We can't waste any time. And then they don't want to march faster for the same 8 hours a day to make further distance. Oh no, we can't have that.
If we walk too fast, my thighs rub together, and the sound it makes hurts my ears.
Not to mention they chafe.
And they chafe.
I'm just saying,
Do you know how hard it is to find talcum powder in this undead economy?
Ice is keeping this in mind. The next time they're all like, we need to rush, we need to rush. He's banking this.
Oh, now you want to rush. Hold on, let me check my receipts.
Oh yeah, now you want to rush in the face of danger without care if we're going to get seen. Okay. What happened, we're heading to Craghammer.
What's these two events be drastically different circumstances?
I'm counting on it.
Honestly, Craghammer should be the most vitally important thing right now, and we are taking it slow, saving and taking an additional day and a half to 2 days. So yeah.
Just like to point out, Ice also wanted to deal with the clasp rather than leave. And then we all decided to leave, and now he's complaining we're not going fast enough.
Maybe we're just against Ice's suggestions. Maybe that's the flaw.
That is literally the thing. Every time Ice suggests something, everyone says no.
When in doubt, go against the bard.
Oh,
So you know what-
let's make
less of a
someone's death
suggestion and
after
more of a
they're already in
demand,
places
really.
they can't be scryed on.
Well, now
And get money.
Now you know what
okay.
you have to do. You have to go against your gut instinct and suggest the thing that you wouldn't go for.
That would be the one time the entire party would go, that's a fucking fantastic idea. We should do that.
Yeah, no, that's my luck right now.
I'm sorry, Ice.
Just saying.
We'll have it up.
Could
Have a
spend
Dr.
less
Phil
than a day
moment.
killing people and still rush there and make the same amount of time. But no. You didn't even want to do that, so I tried to say, hey, let's rush then, since you're so interested in rushing. And
Yeah.
no one wanted to rush at that point. It's like, fuck that
we
shit.
definitely don't have a DM that would totally punish us somehow for doing that. Nope.
I mean, she's not you, so...
I wouldn't punish you for anything. I don't punish you for anything. You just make stupid decisions. It's a difference.
Like I said earlier today, when talking about something completely different that has no bearing on this game, that's a choice.
Exactly. Anyways, we're heading towards the town or the refugee camp now.
The
Okay.
Friends Camp.
Yes, it is called the Friends Camp.
It's called the Friends Camp. Nothing bad can happen at the Friends Camp.
Kyora's
It wouldn't be
marching
called the
with her
Friends Camp if
sword
that were
out.
the case.
Okay.
Macklin mutters as he follows after the group who's hustling.
Okay. So you guys make good time. It was about 40 minutes there. You guys... I'm assuming you're double speeding?
I mean,
No,
I have to wait for Macklin to lead, so I'm stuck behind him.
I could go rogue speed if you want. Send a bird after me.
knowing that Sorrow's there, Kiora is just going to head off. She saw the direction Macklin came from, so she's going to be kind of hurrying in that direction. Not running, because she's not going to tire herself out, considering
just
she
gonna
wears
say-
heavy-ass armor.
Whether or not they're running or not, Felion is keeping a quickened pace, but he's not rushing. Sword's not out.
Okay, so we say you guys make it back about 30 minutes after. So 40 minutes for Macklin to get to you guys, and about 30 minutes for you guys to get back to the edge of the Friends camp. Everyone roll me wisdom saving throws, please, except for Macklin.
I'm even better with those.
26.
That's nice.
Yeah. You don't even feel the tickle.
Ha!
The matron has cleared my vision.
Felion, you're just like, whatever.
Incidentally, everyone does get a bonus to their saving throws equal to my charisma.
Oh, that's what, 5 now?
It is a 5.
So 30, 32?
11.
11 before or after the bonus?
I was going to ask.
11.
Oh!
Alright, so as you guys draw closer to the camp, you see Ice just kind of stop, look a little confused, and turn around and start walking away.
Ice, where are you going?
I snatch him by the shoulder and turn him around.
They have loots. You love loots, I think.
It's this way, my friend.
Macklin,
Don't
you
wander
recognize this is the ward that they have up around their camp.
Oh, right, it's wood. Hold on a moment. Let me see if I can find someone to allow a few others into the white list, as it were. Macklin will scamper forth and see if he can't seek out Lolan again.
Okay. Lolan is waiting for you, more or less at the edge of camp where you had come through before. He was expecting you to kind of approach it the same direction.
Salutations once more, my halfling friend.
Well, hello. You guys, that was a quick back.
Well, we're used to traveling quickly. These days, at least. 2 of my compatriots seem to have, not quite fallen for the ruse, the magical ruse around this area. One of ours, unfortunately, is walking in circles trying to find the place.
Just grab him by the shoulders and bring him forward. Once you get to a certain point, you'll see it. Or he'll see
I
it.
see.
As you look over and you watch as Felion is the location. Stop struggling, Bard. Just walk.
Is anyone else suspicious of a place called Friends?
I make no
It seems a
comments
bit
as they're
on
out
the
of
nose.
earshot.
Well, I'll be honest with you. I've heard of many strange things, so something with the word friends is actually kind of welcoming to me.
I don't know, it seems too on the nose.
And as you guys approach, you do hear various instruments playing. Some sort of jam session. It doesn't seem to have any real rhyme or reason to it. You hear voices, you hear tack kind of jingling. People talking. Seems like a regular camp.
So everybody's not in a panic. Where is Sorrow?
As they approach, I assume they see Macklin with Lolan.
Yep, as you approach, you see a middle-aged halfling who's standing next to Macklin. Well,
That's
welcome.
when Felion asks that. So my friend and compatriot here doesn't get too much of a panic. Can you point us in the direction of Sorrow?
Oh, yeah. I think she found one of the fires to sit next to and get some food.
See, they're friendly.
He looks at you a little confused and motions to inside of the camp.
As the others make their way in, I introduce them one by one. This here is, this is Felion, otherwise known as the Unseen Soul. He's a bit of a folk hero in most parts these days.
We're familiar with the stories of Felion.
Gives a polite smile and nod.
I'd like to vouch that most of them are true. I've seen him dispatch undead. It is poetry in motion.
Kior is frowning a little at Felian from behind her mask since she's not familiar.
Behind Felian, we have Cure, the Talon of the Raven Queen.
And he bows his head to you. Welcome, Cure. You'll find several of your, not comrades, but worshippers of the same in here.
And this young, spry, handsome-looking gentleman. Quick question: Is Seamus? What form is he in right now?
He is.
So you went straight changeling?
Yep.
I'm trying to remember all of his personas, but the changeling is ice, correct?
Yes.
Yep. The changeling is. Well, he's ice, but he's straight no chaser, no charms are up, nothing. He just looks like he did when he so boldly and gallantly convinced the demon to take a rock and go to the plate of water. Yes, it was gallant. Got a problem with that?
And this
I
young
think gallantry
spry-
is imbued by others, not claimed by oneself.
Gallant just means brave and heroic. So, or it's one of them. So yeah, totally fits. That was a brave and heroic thing. You can't take that away from him.
And this heroic and young, gallant specimen is ice.
Gallant? Kior says out loud.
A young professional.
Macklin, your escort missions have gotten a little bit more serious, it looks like. Well, you're all welcome. There's food. It's not much, but mystery stew is mystery stew.
Well, that's the best kind of stew.
My
Dolly?
favorite.
Different every
Disagree.
time.
Always better when you find out it's either rabbit or shit.
He just laughs a little bit. I'm pretty sure it's rabbit, venison, and maybe horse.
Not my favorite mix.
He just kind of shrugs. Oh, better than starving.
That I would have to agree with.
There's wisdom in those words. I'll bring up the rear as these guys make their way into camp and just take in the sights and the sounds.
Okay. Just a moment.
Hey, can I roll an insight check on these people?
Sure.
I'd say
Alright.
Kior is also looking around, trying to get a read on these people, so...
Trying to make sure that the stew that I'm eating is actually not,
People?
Silent Green.
It's an old elven recipe.
unnatural 20.
Unnatural 20?
16.
Okay, 16. So, Felian, you've spent a little bit more time, traveling through Taldore, just in your work as a mercenary, especially since Vecna rose, and while it's odd to run into nomads, it's not so unusual. The meat in the stew is, like promised, rabbit, cubed venison, and maybe a little bit of horse. Also scavenged potatoes, some decent spices that you know grow wild around here. It looks like they were scavenged. It looks like food, and they look like regular people. Happier than your average group of travelers that you are accustomed to, but
Definitely, he takes the stew and sits back.
and Sorrow
So-
is sitting by the fire. She has an empty bowl near her and is drinking some water.
Felian is still keeping his eyes not as guarded, but he's guarded. Takes the stew and starts eating.
Kiora, you're basically picking up as you're kind of scanning the people. You are getting a little bit of interest from a couple of people in the group as you notice a very young tiefling, probably 7 or 8, look at you, kind of get a bit wide-eyed, and dart off.
Tiefling.
As I look around, I am going to open up my divine sense.
Okay.
They're just all undead. They're all revenants.
Celestial fiend or undead. I don't think tieflings pop this.
No, it doesn't.
No.
Nope, they're humanoids.
I think in the previous version of D&D 4E, they counted as...
I think there were monsters in
Fiends.
that one.
Nope,
Like-
they were the 4E was the first time they were player characters.
Okay.
Yeah, like every race had like, you count as fey, or you count as unnatural, or you count as aberrant. People, humanoids had like different,
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah.
You kind of open yourself up, and you do sense a presence. Just a moment. It's small. Give me just a moment here.
That makes me pause a moment. I'm going to pause looking in the direction of what I felt.
Oh, I bet it's fey.
You kind of look around. You don't see anything that should match the description. There's a few people around. Couple old ladies stirring the stew. The gentlemen with the instruments are nearby.
Quietly return to eating my stew. If any of the people happen to like meet my gaze as I was looking around and like nod or wave or something, I would give a nod back.
Give me just a moment here. Yeah, you notice an elf that looks a little bit different, but with your ASMR background, you are pinging on an elf that does not seem quite right. He's one of the players. He seems to be playing restringing his violin.
All right, I'm just gonna, like I said, I log it for now and quietly go back to the stew.
Okay.
Ooh, I just looked at the description of primeval awareness, and I've been playing it wrong.
Okay.
It's not just undead that I can sense.
All right. What can you sense?
Let's see. Aberrations, celestials, dragons, elementals, fays, fiends, and undead. And this is following types, as in
Okay.
all of those things. I don't know if I would have to zero in on one, but it doesn't appear to state that.
Okay. Messages.
Yep, I see.
I'm sorry, you first.
No, you go. I have to actually go make something to eat before I collapse, so you go first.
Okay, so cautiously looking around, I'm not doing insight on anyone yet. Instead, I use one of my at-wills, and I cast Arcane Observer.
Okay.
And I start carefully looking around the camp for magical items, trying to see how much danger I might be in with items in people's possessions, things like that.
Couple of the instruments are enchanted. How much detail do you get?
I think it's just I see anything that's not behind full cover that has magic, and I know what school of magic. I'm double checking.
While he's checking, Mish, what's your passive?
It is 12.
Good to know.
Mine's 18.
You're 18? Cool.
Yeah, my passive is shit. It's 10.
So, Ice, you see a few +1 swords here and there. A couple of.
I'm not supposed to know how good they
Well,
are.
I can't fucking
I'm-
look up every school of
That's-
magic.
I was looking up. I'm just telling you what the thing says because I was just putting it up. For the duration, you sense the presence of magic within 30 feet of me. If I sense magic in this way, I can use an action to see a faint aura around any visible creature or object in the area that bears magic. And I learn a school of magic, if any. I'm fine not knowing it, just knowing that they're magical. And it's only blocked by a foot of stone, an inch of common metal, or a thin sheet of lead, or 3 feet of wood or dirt. So,
Okay, so you're spending an action to recognize if things around you are magical.
yeah, I get a ping, and every time I notice a ping, I'm specifically turning and looking and taking note.
Okay. The gentleman who is restringing his violin appears to have a couple of magical items on him. There's a few different bags that seem to be glowing here and there, mostly on the sides of carts or in carts that you can kind of peek, and a couple of the weapons people are carrying have some magical lore to them.
Okay. With that, I will.
Oh, and the flags around the camp. They're the brightly colored flags around the camp have a magical aura.
I look at the flags. I look at the guy who I was introduced to, and I think back to to the fight I had with Thelian, fighting the whole way in, and I just smirk and scowl at the same time.
That's gonna be an interesting look.
Changelings, man.
Eyes and mouth not matching. It's always weird. At that point, I will cautiously step towards the fire with all of the people, all the players. But I'll take up a position next to the elf, and with my bag flipped around to my chest, I'll pull out my cittern. That way, I'm covering all my possessions as what's the word? Paranoidically, or as obviously paranoid as possible.
Okay.
And
I'm keeping
With
an
the-
eye on him as he does this, and I eat my stew.
Out of the corner of your eye, Cure, you do notice that there appears to be the tiefling boy you saw before and another little girl, who seems to be younger but also a tiefling. Both are deep purple color. And they seem to be looking at you and whispering to each other.
Whispering.
They must be planning my demise.
Are they cupping their mouths as they whisper?
No, not really.
Not that it matters because I'm not paying attention to them.
I mean, they're not hiding that well.
I note them, but don't make any obvious signs of doing so.
Okay. So you begin to play?
yeah, once I got everything situated, and everyone seems to be moving into a song. I just play along with them.
Okay. Um, the gentleman with the violin smiles at you, gives you a friendly nod as you join in, or start rather. He finishes really quickly on his violin, nimbly fingered, and joins with you. And you guys begin to play. It's gorgeous. It fills the air. Everyone regains their highest spell slot if they have spent it.
What?
Be nice if I had spell slots. I'll be right back.
Oh, that's right.
I mean, none of us cast any spells this entire day, so.
So
Oh,
you
well.
just feel really good.
Feels good. Feel
I feel
refreshed.
magical.
As you
listen
all
to this-
play.
I listen to the song as it's. Is anyone actually singing?
No one appears to be singing. It's mostly instrumental.
Seeing that they're just doing their instrumental stuff, I shift past Cure, give her a glance over, and remark, "Weren't you? Correct me if I'm wrong, but weren't you and the young ones singing a song over in the O'Shaughnessy household not long ago?"
That depends. What did you hear?
Fortunately, I don't speak the language, but it's a very beautiful one. Not that you're one to stand out in a crowd, but I look the camp over, think it over a little bit more. Well, I suppose their spirits are high enough as it is. Forget I said anything. And he makes his way toward Sorrow.
Sarah looks better than she has in a little bit. It looks like the food kind of bolstered her. She was moving rough. I mean, there was more injuries than just the physical stuff that got healed. And she looks up to you as you approach. Macklin! Hi.
Hello to you too. You're looking less gloomy. And he takes a seat next to her, sitting cross-legged. To note, he hasn't taken any of the stew. He's actually working on some of his rations.
Okay. She nods and she's leaning back. She's kind of settled herself on a spot. Yeah. No, I feel better.
Surrounding yourselves with those who aren't intend to invoke subterfuge and or backstab you, it does seem to feel nicer sometimes, I've noticed.
Yeah. I was thinking about that, Macklin. I'm going to get a better feel for these people, but I think I might travel with them just until I can catch my way on the Revenge. If you don't mind.
His brows raise a little bit, but as she watches him, she notices that he doesn't seem surprised.
She kind of just smiles at him, shrugs her shoulders. You have important work to do, and I'm slowing you down.
Well, I wouldn't say slowing, but you were a little bedraggled back there. We did lose a little bit of time. I won't hold it against you much.
She smiles at you. Yes, well, plus, it was either leave me here or leave me with the Wood Elves, and frankly, these are probably more friendly. Slightly less touchy, anyway.
He looks around the group and takes note that these do seem like civilized folk. I'm inclined to agree. Now, you do have your means to communicate with Dust, of course.
She nods. Yes, we've been able to get... She's modified them, so I've been able to get some simple messages through. There's not much we can do at this distance, but
Well, keep them close. Stay in touch.
She has more spells to her capabilities than I do.
Well, with that, he nods and, see if there's anything I can leave with her that'll help her out a little bit. Yeah, at which point, Macklin, he pulls his cloak aside and, fishes through the interior of his many compartments and straps and belts and buckles, and he withdraws an elegant, thin-bladed weapon with a small crossguard meant for a small hand. Not comically small, but definitely Macklin-sized, but also it could work for the hand of a
young lady.
For a young lady, yes. He glances the blade over and takes it by the blade, handing her the pommel.
And she
Yeah.
takes it.
Old Faithful. Should you need it, it's the least I can leave you with.
I appreciate it. Even if I don't need it for these people, I might need it in defense of these people. And she kind of sheathes it.
Never let your guard down, even in the friends camp.
She just smiles at you. You know her. She's not going to immediately. While it looks like she's relaxed and going to just fall in love with these people right away, it's there's a little bit more going on there.
Though, truth be told, I have a nagging suspicion that someone or something nearby might be watching with a vested, benevolent interest. I could be mistaken. And he perks his ears and glances around.
Kiora is staring at him. No.
It almost seems as though there's some kind of either a lucky star or a guardian angel watching over these folk.
Oh, good to know. Their leader
Yes,
was
sir.
kind enough when I asked about traveling with them, so he seems like a nice fellow.
Oh, they have a leader.
It's pretty informal, but
Perhaps we should introduce ourselves. And he looks around the group a little bit and
Kiora has brought her bowl of stew over to where the bards are playing and settled down among them.
okay.
whereabouts is this leader?
Oh, the one with the violin. And she points to the group of players.
The one Ice is romancing?
She smiles a little bit. Looks like it.
Well, perhaps he'll make a friend. He could use one.
Well, he's a friendly enough fellow, so
He nods a little bit and he moves then to roll onto his feet and stand, patting around the back. I don't know how long we'll be sticking around. Maybe for the night, but knowing these guys, they'll probably want to move as soon as possible.
well, your feathered friend has an audience.
I glance over to Cure.
Is there a lute nearby that isn't being used?
There does not seem to be an instrument that is not currently in use. You can ask to borrow one.
Yeah, she'll quietly, pretty much almost unheard except for just whoever she's asking, ask for a lute.
One of the players kind of looks you over. Fine. And he hands over his lute. It is. You hold it in your hands, and you were expecting something a little bit more rugged out here, but it is a finely crafted instrument. You're thinking probably belonged to a noble's house.
I'm going to remove my gauntlets before I pick it up, and then I'll pick it up and start strumming a few notes.
Okay.
Seeing what's happening, because Sorrow pointed it out, Macklin goes a little wide-eyed, and rubs his hands together. Oh, I have to go and see this. I'll catch up with you later.
Oh, I meant the audience, and she pointed to, she points to, now 3 children. 1 human, probably a little boy at the age of 8, the little tiefling boy who's also probably 8 or 9, and a younger girl who's probably 5 or 6.
Alright, I'm gonna give them a quick insight check.
Mhm.
Insight on the chillins.
They're all evil.
Oh, I hope so. That's a 9. What is it with Cure and kids?
It's like cats, they know when you don't like them.
He waves his finger at Sorrow and nods.
Sorrow just shrugs her shoulders. I have the same thing. I have played more games of hide and seek than someone my age should.
Oh, you should figure out how to play hide and don't get found.
Generally, I play you go hide and I'll find you sometime.
Oh, that sounds a lot easier, actually. Every day I learn something new from you. And he makes his way over to where Cure is starting to play,
Okay.
and keeps his eyes out for those kids.
Alright, yeah, you see hard to, I mean, they're kids. You're not really picking up anything with that 9. Alright, Cure.
Oh,
Oh, shit!
Yeah, I was about to do that. As usual, when you get your hands on an instrument.
Per the norm at this point.
Yeah, well, both times you've played, you've rolled crits, so. Cure, now canon, plays the loop beautifully and knows how to read crazy.
He has a unique set of skills.
I have a unique set of skills. I will find you, and I will lull you with my beautiful music.
Ice, roll me a performance check as well.
It's hard for me to look at this and be like, the fucking paladin's performance is a +9.
Charisma, man.
Charisma.
Charisma, but he's also proficient in it. On top of that, that's awesome.
Why not? Yeah.
Cure
Okay.
has many
You feel
names.
the talk.
It kind of makes sense, since Cure was kind of with the clergy after the Slayer's take.
No one knows where it came from, but she knows how to play the lute. She just
Bullshit.
doesn't do it.
His passive is 23, but it was a 24.
Okay. No, you Cure, the other, players kind of fade off, but, Thaden, the name of the violinist, all managed to play a rousing song, and you're shaking the camp. Everyone's just entranced.
I just naturally slide in to accompany his singing with the appropriate notes, giving it my own little flourishes here and there to accent the celestial language and all the accents, and it's in the language. Just play something very melodically accompanying it.
Seeing this in the middle of it, Thelian stands up and kind of smiles and looks upon it, and then he kind of steps off out a little bit of ways from the camp and just kind of takes in what's transpired in his life in the past, 3 or 4 days.
Yeah. It's been a interesting few days for Felian.
Hmm.
Why don't you roll me a wisdom check? Or saving throw, whichever you prefer, if you're proficient in one.
Well, I'm proficient in wisdom, so, and
Okay.
I'm, yeah. That's not the best roll in the world.
What's the total?
Oh, sorry. Makes it easier.
Okay. You're a little sore, a little heart sore. Um,
Little hearts. Yep. Yeah.
you know deep down that you did the right thing, but you know there's kind of that part of you that was like, if he just, you know, didn't come back.
Well, I'd say it would be more of it was one of those things I would have been okay with the fact that he was dead,
Mm-hmm.
but he wasn't, so it's still alright, I guess.
Yeah, that's basically where you're at.
And he'll do that for a little while.
Okay. As the music draws on, it was late afternoon when you found the camp, and night is starting to kind of come up. Dusk. The camp kind of settles into like purples and reds. People kind of start putting up these small circular tent things. It looks like they have decided not to move much further today if they're not going to move today. But beds
Oh.
are being set up and not used, just one of those like when we want it. Rather put it up when you're not tired.
Right.
More people come and get stew and kind of sit down and chat amongst themselves. Cure. Roll me another perception check.
Shush, I'm musicking.
yeah, that's about it. Okay. Finally, you guys play a few rounds, and Thaden kind of nods to you both. That was good. It's not often I can find people to keep up with me, especially in Celestial. And he nods to you, Seamus.
I just give a polite nod back and put the cistern back on my back and look around.
That's quite a beautiful instrument. May I take a look at it?
My eyes narrow. Now I'm insight checking him.
Okay.
20, not nat.
Okay. He does not seem to have any ill intent towards your instrument.
Okay. And I carefully take the citron off my back and hold it out so that Thaden can look at it.
Okay. He just kind of lightly takes it from you and looks it over. He doesn't adjust anything or just flicks a couple of notes that it's kind of harmonized, but he knows how to play. Harmonizes and kind of rings through the camp, and he nods and hands it back. It's a beautiful instrument.
Thank you. I take it back and I properly mount it on over my shoulder again.
With my song finish, I'm going to hand the lute back to its owner with a thank you.
He nods to you. He looks a little put out that you seem to have played it better than he was. And he, kind of looks at it and moves to a corner, and you can see him kind of trying to mimic the notes that you were doing.
How did you get your fingers to do that?
I've had a lot of practice.
Oh my.
And Thaden looks at you all. So, will you be joining us for the evening?
If you would have us, I believe that would be amenable.
He kind of looks you all over. You notice something kind of flash over his eyes, like maybe he was casting something or detecting something, before he nods. No, I think that would be fine. I know Sorrow had planned on joining us for a longer period of time, but you're definitely welcome to stay as long as you need. Safety in numbers, of course.
I simply nod along to that. Still cautious.
He nods to you. Well, I should make my rounds of the camp. Can't be a leader without listening to everyone's gripes. And he gives you guys a big wink and kind of starts strolling off. He's tall for an elf. Even for an elf. Probably like 6'3". And a little bit broader in shoulder as well.
Hmm.
He is not entirely elven, Kior murmurs to Ice.
Yeah.
Ice just only gives that affirmation and looks around.
You're cut out, Sam.
Ice just gives that affirmation and then looks around and says, "Okay, where would you like the hut?"
Oh, someplace that isn't too obtrusive.
As a reminder, the hut only lasts for 8 hours, so if you want to sleep in it, you probably want to wait until right before you go to sleep to cast it.
Mm-hmm. I was just gonna say that I just start looking for a spot that's large enough to fit the hut.
Yep, you managed to find one on the outskirts, not towards the center, but a little away. And you kind of just, like, mark out a circle.
And right after I mark that circle, about how long, or is it dark now, or is it
It's
dusk?
twilight, but at the same time, it's like November. The Taldori equivalent of November, so it's probably like 5 or 6.
Speaking of November, how cold is it?
Macklin. You notice that it is actually a little bit warmer in camp than you'd anticipate it being.
Not just being by the fire, then.
You think it is, but like as you're kind of walking around and kind of gauging people, you notice that you don't get as chilly as you would expect. You're wearing your cloak, but it doesn't. It's not biting through your cloak. It's not even noticing much of a wind, really.
Interesting. Taking a note of this, are there any trees in the area?
Oh, there's a couple on the outskirts. They're not
Hmm.
huge trees. They're kind of scraggly, but you see them.
Alright. Macklin briefly considers the wisdom of sleeping under the stars. When they have a hut available to them and tents available. But it's a rare opportunity this time of year to do just that, considering how cold it's supposed to be. Assuming there's some element of magic making the area more hospitable, he's going to glance around and see if is everyone here pitching a tent, or are there people camping outside?
There are a couple people camping outside. It looks like mostly younger adults, probably the the ones who are too old to be kind of jammed into their parents' tent, but also like too young to be having their own tent yet. So you see like where you see this rug kind of set up, you do see a couple people that have bedrolls put out.
Alright, what do I have on hand? I know I have a bedroll. Yeah, I'm gonna assume that a bedroll should be enough to keep me warm then.
Oh yeah.
So Macklin makes himself a little camp area, some distance away from the fire.
And you notice as you kind of look at the fire, the music is starting to pick up and people are starting to dance. It's very festive.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah, Macklin is totally wandering away from the party, just sort of checking and glancing and immersing himself in the crowd.
You look around. People are, passing bottles back and forth. There's a good bit of sharing of drink, of comforts. They don't seem to be anything of high quality, but it does seem to be. I've been brewing this in the corner of my wagon for 3 months, and it's mostly mead. Um, Things like that. I found this tea tin, at the last farmhouse we were at, and I managed to scavenge some. Stuff like that.
All right, he makes note of all these little things, and
You do notice that the few children who were stalking Cure now seem to be playing some sort of game with sticks.
that's peculiar.
I was about to ask about that too, because once the playing with the lute is all done, then Kiora would be kind of watching out for the kids.
Seems like they have wandered away. You kind of catch them out of the corner of your eye, and they look like they're playing swords with sticks.
Paladin walked in. Now everyone wants to be a paladin.
Kior, roll me a perception check.
Four.
Oof.
Okay, yep. Kids. 2 are tiefling.
What about the tiefling?
2 of the kids are tieflings.
I'm going to walk up and wander over to where they're playing, but I'm going to kind of lurk on the edges so I don't intrude.
Okay. The little girl notices you. The 2 boys are too busy playing. And she kind of looks and gives you a curious look. And as you kind of look closer, you do see a small charm she seems to be wearing around her neck. But you're not close enough to get a good look at it.
I raise a hand and give her a little wave.
And she smiles and waves back to you. And then she kind of cuts her eyes to who you
Spirit
assume
back.
is her brother and his friend, and then she kind of stealthily walks over. I'm just kind of looking at you.
As she approaches, I'm going to kneel down so I'm on her level and not towering over her.
Okay. As you kneel down and you see her get closer, you do notice that she has a symbol around her neck, and it is a raven with its wings outstretched.
I kind of gestured towards her with one hand. That's a beautiful necklace you're wearing.
And she nods. My mother says the matron will protect me.
The matron indeed shelters us all.
She also said we shouldn't bother you.
Oh, you're no bother. I won't be around the camp very long, so...
And she nods. And kind of turns towards her brothers playing swords. Ice, what are you doing? Just sitting in the middle of your empty circle?
I'm keeping an eye on things. I'm not comfortable. Even though everyone else is buddied up, I'm currently very paranoid of any group of people out in the open. So, my bag is still on my chest. I still have a good strong hold of the band that connects to my cittern, and right now I've knelt down in the spot that we're going to use, and I just keep looking around, and every so often re-up the uh, detect magic if it goes away. So every time I look around, even if it's getting dark, I can at least get a ping of magic near me and see if one of the people with the swords is getting too close to me. Just because I don't trust people.
You do notice there's a couple people with swords start circling the camp, and then one does get closer to you, but it does seem like he's on patrol. They are kind of ranging out. And Thaden approaches, motioning to your giant empty circle. Do you mind if I join you?
Not at all. I say kind of hesitantly, but he's the one letting us stay in the warmth of his camp, so I'm not going to deny.
He seems to pick up your trepidation, but he does sit next to you, stretches his legs out, and leans back, looking up at the sky. You're nervous.
Lots of bad experiences.
I hear that. I have heard many sob stories, especially from the people in this camp.
I wonder, but everyone's got a story.
Well, all we can do is offer people a safe place to sleep, a meal to eat, and a little bit of protection and company.
I just nod, cordially, no, not cordially, but I nod in acknowledgement of it.
Oh, I was looking through my things and I found this. I thought you might like it. And he hands over a small, rolled scroll case. So not a flat one, but a rolled.
I blink a bit, and I take it. What is this?
Just some old sheet music I had lying around. I think you might have the skill to play it.
I I open the case,
Mhm.
and I slowly pull out the music to give it a look over.
Okay. He stands and kind of starts to and wanders away as you pull out the music and look at it. One, it's in Celestial.
Huh.
Two, it is complicated. It's definitely not an easy piece.
As they, I call.
Break it
Thank
up.
you for this.
He waves to you. Sometimes
And
a
then
song heals most wounds.
I tilt my head a bit, and yes, sometimes they do. And then I go back to examining the piece.
Okay. It's definitely roll me a Arcana check. Actually, no. What's you're charisma based, right? Roll me a general charisma check.
If no proficiencies, 20, not nat.
Okay. It's a spell. It's seems to be divine in nature. You know, magical sheet music is it's slightly different than regular sheet music.
I I look over it for a few minutes, trying to figure out the intricacies of a few of the passages, but then I carefully roll it back up, put it back in the case, and add the case, or put that case next to the other one I have for another song, and I think about what I was reading and trying to think of if I could actually make those fingerings work on the Saturn.
Okay. So, Felian, as you kind of stand on the edges,
Hmm?
you hear a small cough behind you. Not a real cough, but a I'm approaching cough.
I turn around, see who it is.
It's Thaden.
Hello?
Hello. He comes to stand near you. You're looking out towards nature, right?
Yeah, essentially.
Okay.
Out towards everything.
Yeah, he joins you, kind of scanning the horizon.
Nice place you have here.
I do my best to gather those who need a home.
Always a kind thing to do.
I call it my life's purpose.
Sometimes it's nice to have people in this world that aren't selfish as you think.
Well, we're all selfish sometimes.
Yes, that is a true fact. Fortunately, I think even the best of us can be selfish at times.
He kind of looks out. It's important work that you're doing.
I just wish that I had joined sooner.
You joined when you were needed.
Sometimes that's not enough. There's many different times that I should have joined the fight and never did.
It will get worse before it gets better.
It does every time, doesn't it?
He nods.
He kind of stares off. So, who are you? What have you must have experienced many things. What exactly did you do before, we'll say, the fall?
This? I've always done this. Gathered people to me who need a place to sleep, a place for comfort, food. This is a little bit more open than I usually work, but there's always someone who needs help.
Felian gives a slight smile and
Roll me a history check.
history.
Yeah. Makes me sometimes wish we had lore broken out into its own thing.
It's a 19.
19. You know, you've heard a little bit about this. This is not new information. You have definitely heard of the Friends Camp, the Beggar's Court, the
Yep.
name changes, but it's the same thing. It's a place for people who have no home, it's a sanctuary.
Yep. A traveling sanctuary.
A
essentially.
traveling sanctuary. Sometimes it's not always traveling. Sometimes it
Right.
works side by side with the clasp and kind of sections itself away. Sometimes it's hidden places. It's usually not easy to find, but given the times.
Yeah.
And you know that this is either a very old tradition or a very old man.
Could be a little bit of both.
Like, this is ancient. Since before the calamity, it is ancient.
Helen smiles slightly and puts his hand low down. Halfling, right?
Thaden is not. Thaden appears to be some sort of elf, maybe.
Oh. Can I roll an insight or a perception to identify? That I don't want to say like identify, but to pick it.
Yeah, sure.
I'm
In-
good with creatures.
I'm gonna roll you.
monsters.
Yeah, I'm gonna give you a couple of options, and whatever you roll will affect how your answer is given to you. You can roll insight, you can roll perception, you can roll survival, or you can roll arcana.
That's a hard choice. The good thing is 3 of those I'm proficient in.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know which one I want to roll. I'm gonna roll survival for more of a creature aspect of them.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Yes.
Insane. What about?
Okay. You look him over, and you're looking closer now, and you're seeing the broader shoulders that doesn't quite fit an elf, but still the pointed ears and kind of the pointed features of an elf. And with your training, it kind of hits you an Eladrin. Something a step below an angel, but still a celestial being. They're generally banished to this plane for overreacting to injustices in the world. They tend to be a little bit more feisty than your average celestial, who's usually more hands-off. Usually Eladrin are where ASMR come from. But,
Yeah.
you know, kind of in the same way that fiends are where tieflings come from and stone giants are where Goliaths come from.
Makes perfect sense.
Mhm.
And everything just starts clicking. Bellion looks over at him and after, giving a more of a careful glance. I've been around for a very long time. I have to say, I have not seen very many of you around.
He kind of smiles and he gives you a knowing look and he just shakes his head. I'm just a simple man doing simple work.
He again smiles. Looks out. So, we are both, as you could consider, banished, I'd say.
He nods. And yet we're doing more important work than we would be if we weren't.
He nods. Velian nods. Fortunately, in my early days, my deeds, although you could consider important, were all for the greed of one order. Foolish men who gave up everything for wealth in a time they spent on this plane. I've spent a long time trying to right the wrongs that I've made. Every day seems to grow harder. Deal with lost thoughts.
He nods.
Hellion kind of almost does that kind of look away thing. And, you know, I thought I was deserving of things that could never be. Now that after you lose it completely, there's no turning back. The worst feeling you could ever deal with. And that's worse than knowing that my father died saving my life.
He nods a little.
And Pelion kind of shrugs. But yet they tell great tales about a great adventurer, a man who saves lives and fights monsters and fights them with bare hands, but yet they never know who people truly are and the things that they have done.
He gives you a small, like, yup grin.
Yep.
It's unfortunately the nature of legends to forget the man behind them.
Turns back and something that I'm sure you know all too well.
He turns back to the camp and kind of looks it over. Well, someday this will be forgotten too.
Pelion gives a slight frown. Nobody ever forgets tales, and tales go on for generations. Something like this, I don't think will ever be forgotten.
He kind of shrugs his shoulders. He is a very, very, very old creature who has seen this happen many, many times.
Pelion gives him a good old pat on the shoulder, knowing that probably drives him nuts.
He's,
And he just gives the big smile and he says, "I can tell you, in this old man's mind, you will never be forgotten."
good to know.
And he just kind of starts walking back to camp.
Okay. Dayton continues on his walk. Cure, you're doing footwork drills with, It started off with, like, 3 little kids, and then, like, you blinked, and there were, like, 5 little kids. And then you blinked again.
I've got them in ranks. I've got them learning some simple marching rhythms and simple sword swings. Like, I'm not marshaling an army exactly, but I'm building out the next generation of guards.
Yeah, definitely. You are, and some are getting that more than others. A couple like drop their sticks and kind of wander off to go find something more fun to do. But you've got a solid, maybe 6 kids.
I'm also preaching a little as I do this, you know.
Oh, what is she not?
You know, talking about the matron and how she watches over everyone and escorts the souls of the departed and protect the spirits of those who've fallen, and how it's the job of the living to ensure that no one dies before their time and all that kind of stuff. No, like instilling this sense of protection rather than aggression.
And you are definitely there are a couple of parents who look over, including a young tiefling woman who kind of nods to you, a respectful like, "Yup" nod. Before going back to, it looks like she's making some sort of dinner or food or something like that. She's obviously busy with camp. But yeah, no, you have a marshal of like 6 kids who are. You could probably enter him into paladin training camp tomorrow. Macklin, where are you off to?
After acclimating himself to the crowd, Macklin's gonna make his way back to the campfire. Take a seat, not too close to Seamus. And not really too far from anybody else. He just seems to be observing the fire, watching it.
Okay. As you're kind of looking at the fire, you feel someone sit next to you, and there is Thaden.
Oh, hello. I don't think we've properly introduced each other. You are the leader of this camp, correct?
Ah, as much as there is a formal leader, I'm Thaden, and you are Macklin.
He inclines his head, nodding to him, assuming probably Lone passed his name along. Quite a nice camp you've got. The people here seem happy,
That is the goal.
despite tremendous loss of life and property and way of life. Despite all odds, despite hardship, they seem to be enjoying themselves in the moment.
Well, we must
Rather,
carve out civilization where we find it. He kind of inclines his head to your ring.
he glances to his hand and palm up, takes his thumb and rubs it along the ring surface, causing it to rotate a little bit. Yes, I suppose that is true. Those of us, enlightened few beasts of this earth, civilization seems to be what we cling to. At the very least, what counts as civilization as we pack together, small bands and families like this.
I think this is the basis of civilization. Community.
Something like it. He nods and inclines his head.
I have heard good things about your work. And not just the work you are doing currently.
Well, crisis of conscience will drive you to do lots of things that are as foolish as they are altruistic.
Well, I know at least 3 in this camp that owe their life to you, so.
He nods his head a little bit and thinks, pondering about the third, and then quickly pushes the thought away, shaking his head. Well, if I can help sow the seeds of the next world to come by saving a few lucky folk, I suppose I'm doing my duties.
He nods. I think she would be proud of you, Macklin. And he clasps you on the shoulder and gives you a squeeze before standing.
I glance quickly at him, brows furrowed, and just stare a little bit.
Mhm.
And I roll insight.
Okay.
That's a nat 1.
Good job. Pity.
He's
He's
just a really friendly guy.
he's there.
Good.
Maybe he's got you confused for someone else, maybe?
He's there, and maybe he's got me confused. Yes, I suppose it is reassuring to think that she might be. He pauses and turns his attention back down, looking at the fire again. And he had gone to stand, right?
Mhm.
I do ponder, though, as he sits there, he's looking at the fire. I do ponder what someone like you gets out of all of this.
He kind of pauses for a moment and looks around. I've always been exceptionally fond of people.
Taking this information, Macklin nods again, looking back toward the tall, elven gentleman. We could use more of that in this world. I think whoever's watching over you would also be proud, wherever they may be.
He gives you a gentle nod. May she look over us in kindness. And bows his head and kind of moves along.
His head swimming, he returns back to watching the fire, mostly still.
Okay. Alright, Cure, as your army is called away for dinners, hand washing, and bedtime. What are you
Yes.
up to?
I salute them and I have them recite a. Basically, it's, may the matron watch over you in Celestial.
Mm-hmm.
And as they scamper off, I just kind of smile behind my mask, feeling like, I don't know, as much as I like smiting evil, this feels like I accomplished something.
Okay. You see Macklin near the fire, Felion kind of on the edge of camp, and Seamus sitting in a very large empty circle where he seems to be guarding.
I'm going to look over to the fire and then look at Ice and then head over to him. And as I approach, I say, I don't think that spot of land is going anywhere. Why don't you come by the fire for a little bit?
I'm contemplating a piece of music, and it's easier to do in the quiet of an open area.
Cure cocks her head to the side and shrugs a little bit. Of all the things that Ice could have said, she believes that and isn't going to hassle him about it, actually. So she'll nod and turn to head away and say, well, if you change your mind and would like to spend a few moments among friends before we bed for the night, you'll know where to find us. And then head over to join Macklin at the fire.
Okay.
I nod, but then go back to humming bits of the song, trying to see what I remember before pulling out the scroll again and using light to see what to be able to read the page again and see what I was messing up.
Okay. You devote your evening to really learning this song.
Felion heading back to the place camp would see Cure kind of walking towards Macklin, and Macklin sitting at the fire, so he'd probably go and join them.
Okay. You three pull up a nice comfy log near the fire.
Man, I didn't bring my fold-out chair. Damn it. I hate it when I forget.
I must admit I did not expect to find a place such as this in the wilds of Tal'Dorei.
They have
Likewise.
respectable people looking over them.
An oasis of civilization in a world that's quite literally going to hell. It's nice. It makes you think.
It's a reminder of why we fight.
Macklin tilts his head quite visibly at that remark, and while still watching the flame, he doesn't turn toward Cure. but he speaks quietly, if I might say. What did bring you to this life of yours? Why fight? Why become a paladin?
Cure is silent as she contemplates this. When I was a child, my mother sold my brother and I into slavery. We ended up on the fire plane, as I'm sure you've surmised from our last exploits there.
He knows.
And our lives were saved by Vox Machina, who on a whim decided to save us from being purchased by that demon. They took us into their home, and upon returning to Tal'Dorei, they set us up with Ilya's mother, the queen. This was after Amon fell to Thordak, mind you. But as soon as we thought we had a family, Vecna rose and attacked the city, and we had to flee to Vasselheim. And ever since then, it's just felt that, well, with all these monsters that have pursued us in our lives, it felt like someone had to fight them. Vox Machina did. And then they weren't around anymore. And sometimes I wonder if what would have happened if they hadn't intervened, if no one intervened, if no one fought and no one did anything for others. Well, there wouldn't be much of a world left now, would there?
I should say not. Still, it's a rather hefty burden to square up on your shoulders, to pick up the fight. It is a job that must be done, however. I can appreciate that. Well, what of you, Felion? Your storied past had to have started somewhere. Why did you first pick up the blade?
Well, my life started with a battle. My mother died at birth, and my father couldn't raise me. And when he couldn't take care of me, he sought refuge with my grandfather, who was a part of an order up in the mountains. My father tried to make it all the way, but couldn't, and my grandfather found me in a cave where my father was keeping me warm. Since then, I was raised in an order and trained to slay monsters. So you could say from the age of... They started training me at the age of 7, and from then I learned how to wield a blade. When I turned 18, I was sent on a trial to kill a vampire spawn. My grandfather took me out on this adventure. Come to find out, we not only ran into a vampire spawn, but we also ran into the vampire himself, and, well, my grandfather did not make it out alive. And for years I wandered around slaying monsters, killing beasts, all in the name of coin. Once I decided that life wasn't for me, I broke off from the order and have wandered around the world ever since, trying to reconcile my past, you could say. Here's where you find me to this day.
At some point during Fillion's explanation, Macklin had turned away from the fire to actually look at him, and he nods a little bit.
You see, Macklin, people will tell you stories of a man who slays monsters in the name of good, and they'll tell you about a man who destroyed a werewolf with his bare hands by putting him in a headlock and ripping his head from his shoulders. But they don't explain the times when kings sought help and all there was in return was money or coin. And if you didn't have the coin, well, your village was slain. Your village was slain. They don't tell you about the times where you turn down beggars because, well, they only can offer you a few copper. They don't tell you about men who allow women and children to burn because it's not their fight to fight. They don't tell those stories. They will tell you the story of the great man and not what came before the great man.
Macklin seems to nod at this, and you can tell, without really an insight check, that he there's something very familiar to what you're saying, and there's something kindred in the way that he looks back at you. To be robbed of one's childhood, that is a tragic thing. I'm sorry to hear that. But all things considered, you seem to be doing well for yourself. Your conflicts and demons considered.
Velian gives you a kind of a frown, and kind of looks at the fire and stares at it for a second. Well, unfortunately, I'm still paying for those mistakes, no matter how many good deeds I do. But nowadays, I've learned that it's not about trivial things. It's about what's good for everyone, not just you.
He nods.
Kior grunts in agreement.
You'll find, Felian, that there's no docket for you to balance. For as many good things as you do, those things you didn't do, they still weigh on you. Never any lighter, never any less irksome when you think back upon them, but the more things you do, the more good you do, the more you can distract yourself from those perceived slights and sins you may have committed, either directly or indirectly. I've tried for years to balance the numbers, but it doesn't work that way. Still, we are all doing the right thing. I suppose that's what matters most.
Velian gives you a nod, and you see him kind of rub his hands together and stick his hands out and just say, even at the sacrifice of your own body. And when he sticks his hand out, you see in his right hand, it has just numerous scars just all up and down his hand. They look like almost little needle pokes, but the little dots have kind of almost like they're together, you know. But you can still barely see the spots, and kind of
Like two dots together.
it's almost like something constantly pricking his hand.
Oh.
And that hand is. You look at Felion, and you see young features, very, very young features, besides the salt pepper hair. But that hand almost looks like it's withering away.
Huh.
That's a nasty wound, my friend. Nasty scar, rather.
Looks at it. That's what many years of drawing from your life force.
That seems rather self-destructive.
As the order would say, it costs a price for your own wealth.
Franklin
Kiara's
nods
expression
appraisingly.
is inscrutable behind her mask.
Oh, of course.
Valiant kind of looks at you both, and we sacrifice a lot to our powers. We even sacrifice our own souls. That was like
That's
perfect
not
timing.
exactly how the order works, but I get your drift.
That's how my order works.
Have
Can
you
I,
considered converting? She says that with the obvious note of levity in her voice.
Felion gives you like this oh my dear if you only knew look, and just your order does not, or your religion does not teach you of who we are, do they?
Our order tends to be more concerned with matters that occur once life has passed on.
Gives a nod. One day, when you're meeting with your priests and your clerics and your older ones, ask them about the Order of the Enlightened, what they sacrifice for their powers, and how much they feel in disdain for us. Or I shouldn't say disdain, distaste for us.
quick history check.
Yeah, I was gonna do the same.
Yep.
Nope. Kira's not big on history.
Macklin is not the spring chicken that he appears to be.
You guys still there?
Yeah, we're
I'm
still
still
here.
here.
Yep.
Okay, sorry. It said my connection to the server's been interrupted, so I just was like,
Yeah, roll 20.
I had the same thing.
I just wanted to make sure it was roll 20, and not our internet crapping out.
Right on.
Looks like roll 20 has crashed.
Completely?
Oh, yes, it has.
Yep.
Guess we're playing Theater of the Mind.
So I used to play it, man. I never played with maps.
Neither does Matt Colville, and it's the strangest thing to imagine. I don't think I could keep track of people in three-dimensional space inside my mind.
Dice camera action doesn't really use maps either.
Unless, like, you throw out the idea of movement and just sort of estimate it.
I only like them. I only really care about combat, and then I'll throw down a mood picture occasionally.
I hear that.
A rather large or medium mood. Oh, hey, Cure rolled. We're back.
Yeah,
Kind of.
sort of. Yeah, once my. So Macklin, 18. Yeah, you've heard of it. Felian, do you want to describe a little bit about the Order of the Enlightened?
So, essentially, probably what you would know, for the Order of the Enlightened to gain their power, they must essentially die and come back, but they don't come back per the normal means of resurrection. They come back pushing themselves from crossing over. So they meet the matron and essentially sacrifice their soul to never cross over. They are lost souls that wander the world.
So, like, revenants?
Not quite a revenant. They die. Their soul isn't there to cross over.
Oof. But they're tied to the Raven Queen?
They're not tied to her at all. They push her away. She gives them the choice.
Oh. Okay, so they gave up their ticket then.
Basically.
Essentially, the coins that you get to cross the bridge, they keep the coins for themselves.
That's pretty hardcore.
They're greedy.
So by sheer force of will, they're like, fuck this, I'm going back.
Yeah.
Cool.
No.
Hearing of this, Macklin raises his brows and glances back at Felion. Stars and stones, will the wonders never cease with you?
I told you. They tell the stories you want to hear, but they don't tell you the stories that are truth.
Perhaps it's for the best. This world needs heroes, figures, role models. As unfortunate and, again, tragic as it is that your true story might be buried to the ravages of time, I can't help but think what might happen if the young and impressionable learn about your order. Could you imagine young, talented professionals flocking en masse to this idea that they could continue to earn coin by the simple matter of giving up their ticket, as it were?
What are you talking about?
I'm sorry for your loss, Felion. Perhaps in time, you might find a way to right this lapse of judgment. We all made mistakes when we were young, right?
Stallion smiles and he looks at Macklin. You can see a deep sadness in his eyes. And he just gives you a little smile and says, "Oh, Macklin, for what I have done, I cannot turn back from. I only hope assisting you and your friends, Kjorn and Ice, that no, it doesn't make up for my mistakes, but is a good enough sorry to say I'm sorry, and even though I'm lost to what this world will have for me, that's okay. I've made right with that.
I feel like I'm missing something.
I glanced to Felion and then back to Cure, and Then back to Felion. Well, perhaps when we get back to Whitestone, you could inquire about the Order of the Enlightened, unless, of course, Felion chooses to share that with you.
Felion will look over at Cure and just. I feel as though it would be more right to hear it from. How do you say, the people you trust, rather than hear it from a person you do not know.
Huh.
Felion smiles. Do not worry, Cure. I'm not undead.
Oh, I know that. I would have slayed you if you were.
Vax, Percy, please come back in here.
That's when
Poppos.
Felion stands up and he goes, "You could have certainly tried, my friend. And
And succeeded, I know.
so you would hope. Well,
So I know.
I'm off to bed. I hope you sleep well. We have a long journey ahead of us."
Once he wanders off, Cure will look at Macklin and say, "Well, he's a dour one, isn't he?"
We've all got our own skeletons in the closet. Though
Do
his
we?
fate is, I would not wish that upon another person. Put it there.
There are many things I would not wish on another.
At that point, Macklin sort of claps his hands on his knees and straightens his back. Well, I think we've all gone a bit too long without hearing the dulcet tones of our good friend Ice. Is he coming by at any point, or is he going to stay in that circle and study?
He said he's practicing a piece of music.
Well, perhaps he's inspired. I think I'm going to take advantage of the interesting weather we've been having in this camp and sleep beneath the stars. A few meters back from the fire should be adequate warmth.
I suspect they must be using magic to keep this place comfortable.
This time of year, unmistakable.
She grunts a little as she stands and heads back over to Seamus. Ice.
As she stands up, Macklin does speak up as soon as she has her back to him. You never did explain how you ended up in direct communication with the Raven Queen. That's a story I'd like to hear another time, if you're willing.
Cure kind of pauses and glances over her shoulder. Well, it's actually quite a short one. One does not meet the Raven Queen. The Raven Queen chooses to meet with you.
Well, that's
And then-
ominous.
And she walks away.
Okay, as Macklin sets up his bedroll and as Felion and Cure join Ice, you making the hut?
Nah, I go find my own spot.
Oh, you're gonna
Got
go
him.
find your own spot?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, as people show up, I will just look around them and then start casting as they take spots. Seeing that
It's just you
Felion
and
isn't
Cure.
joining us. and I do the quick cast, so not ritual. And then right after casting it, I just make sure I'm holding on to my bag and my citron as I go to sleep in the center of the hut.
Okay.
No one.
Before he settles down to sleep, I'm going to ask him if he has a canteen of water I could have.
I grumble softly as I'm being kept from sleep, but I take out my extra canteen of water and pass it over.
Thank you. I'll then spend the next hour consecrating the water.
Okay. You have a canteen full of holy water.
And it says there's 25 gold worth of powdered silver which is consumed, so I'm going to deduct that from my total.
Yeah, just gonna go. Just assume that you grind up one of your own coins to do it. The magic of D&D. You have the components all
Yay.
along. Okay. As you guys head into sleep, I need everyone to roll me wisdom saving throws.
Hooray!
Yay!
Is this a magical effect?
It is.
Okay, rolling with advantage.
10!
Or
Oh, really?
wait,
I'm using luck.
Okay.
16.
I'm taking that luck.
Niche, did you include your +5?
Oh, that's right.
So you're at 15.
Yes, and Ice would also benefit from that boost.
I know, that's why I said 16.
Okay, so what did everyone roll again? Final numbers? Cure.
15.
Ice.
16.
Velian.
26.
Macklin.
I think that's an 11.
Yes, because you're not near Cure.
Yeah, the luck only rolls one of those, and that reroll was a 6.
Awesome. Okay, so, Ice. You close your eyes. You head off to sleep. And it's a deep sleep. You're in
And nothing happens.
No, they can't hear you for a second.
You're in the darkness, alone. Naked.
Ow.
And your loot is, or not, sorry, not your loot, your citern is smashed in front of you. Your sword broken. And you hear a laugh. A charming laugh, a handsome laugh. But you don't see its face. You wake up in a cold sweat. Cure.
Meep.
Meep. You close your eyes and settle in, say your evening prayers, and you sleep okay for a little bit, but you're in a forest, and you walk forward and you see a sight that is familiar to you, a sight that will probably haunt you for a very long time. Ilya hanging from a tree, blood draining down from her head. And you know it's a dream. And you turn away, and walk away, and then you see it again. And no matter what direction you turn, you see it. You wake up in a cold sweat. About 2 a.m. Macklin. It's that night. If you just run a little bit faster. Just a little bit faster. And just a little bit faster. And you feel your feet give out from underneath you. And you're falling. Then it's catching up to you. And you wake up. It's 2 a.m.
Yeah.
Early birds.
Sitting upright, I clutch the cittern, check that I still have my bag, and slowly catch my breath, panting, and then
Kior speaks up from nearby. Oh, it wasn't just me then.
Macklin sits up and just groans in response.
Do not
Macklin,
with
roll
them.
me a perception check.
Perception. Perception, perception, perception. That's a 14.
Okay, you're not the only one waking up. Various people in camp are waking up. You hear crying. That kind of terror of small children crying after a nightmare. Lots of people. Not all of camp, but most of camp seems to be rousing.
I get up and grab my gear and do I have any idea where our tall and handsome elven friend might be camping?
There's a large wagon, which you would assume would be his, but it appears to be open and empty.
Huh. What was his name again?
Thaden.
Tayden?
Thaden.
Okay. Thaden. Macklin makes his way toward Thaden's wagon and gives it a once-over, searching for the elf. Seeing that it's empty, going to see if I can't track him. I look for signs of movement around his wagon that have been recent.
Okay, as you're looking, a lot of people are kind of coming up to the wagon, looking in. People are starting to stir, or, kind of gather around the campfire. It's getting a little bit chaotic, and roll me a survival check. I want to see what you can pick up.
Sure. Incidentally, is it getting cold out?
It's not getting cold out.
Right, 16.
16. Okay. It's hard. There's a lot. It's kind of packed earth here, and you're not picking up a lot. Cure, outside of the bubble, you hear the sounds of children crying, you hear people waking up, you hear the occasional shouts here and there.
I rouse myself and stand up. I kind of glance around, and rather than completely toss my armor up on, I throw my mantle around my shoulders, grab my scabbard in one hand, toss my mask on and my shield, and carry my shield in the other, and then go out. Not rushing out, but heading out to do a walk, since it sounds like everyone is... Well, something's woken us all up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna have. I'd probably wake up to the sounds of wrestling.
Yeah,
to be
you
honest.
do. It's you didn't have a nightmare, but the sounds of the camp kind of waking up to this. You do wake
Yeah.
up shortly after. Especially, you're attuned to this level of chaos, and chaos is starting to descend a little bit. People are getting confused, and they're getting a little scared.
I'm gonna wake up and kind of probably find closest person to my party as I can.
Okay. Macklin appears to be near a large wagon over to your left, and you can see the hut is over to your right.
Okay. Walk up to Macklin.
I
Do you
glance to...
know what's going on?
I think so. This happened to our party once before. Someone or something had meddled with our dreams, made us see horrors. Not good things. We never identified who it was before. I wonder if perhaps they could be nearby. Felian, if you could please keep your eyes sharp. I need to meditate.
Before you do that, who are you looking for?
Well, I was looking for Thaden, but I wonder if perhaps there's someone else nearby who should not be.
So when he says that, noticing that he's not in there, I'm gonna take my chance on. I want to try to track Aiden myself.
Okay.
I get advantage on tracking Fey, fiends, or undead.
He is not
If
Fey,
I-
Fiend, or Undead.
If I notice that the mud itself is stirred, or the ground, I would also be looking. If I'm looking for his tracks, I'm also looking for, just in case something kind of broke in and maybe got a hold of him, type
Okay.
thing. You know what I mean?
Yep. Roll me survival.
It's natural 17,
Okay.
8, so 26.
You can kind of get an idea. It does not look like anything popped the wards or came through. It does look like Thaden left armored and in a hurry.
Get the others and follow me.
He nods to Felian and quickly goes about doing that. He'll approach the tiny hut and knock on it.
Ice.
Knock, knock, knocking on tiny hut.
Macklin probably hears me coming up from behind him on the outside.
Ice stands up and reaches his hand up through the top of the hut and causes it to pop. And then looks at everyone. Okay, what's going on?
Something is amiss. Not just the nightmares. Thaden has disappeared into the night. I believe Felian can track him.
Cure, get your armor on.
Kiora is already moving to her bundle.
Can I assist Cure in getting armored so that it's quicker?
Sure.
Come on, this is a two-man job.
I resituate my
Roll me a
packs.
sleight of hand check.
Sleight of hands.
Yep.
Ouch, well.
Come on, rogue.
If you cop a feel,
Oh.
so help me.
No. So Macklin. So, as someone who wore armor for a very long time, I can tell you there's a lot of straps and a lot of buttons and a lot of like I gotta attach this to this and loop this into this. And you can do it. You can do it in your sleep. But Macklin, like, you know when like, your clothes fit really, really well? Macklin seems to have gotten your armor, like, perfect. Like, it's strapped it's not even strapped on the same loops as it usually is, but he seems to have done a better job of strapping you in your armor than you usually do.
Huh.
Ceremonial armor for noble houses tend to be elaborate. When you're the youngest of 12, well, you get the squire position.
Have you ever considered becoming a squire?
He glances up at her and kind of scowls a little bit.
We all have to start somewhere.
He just silently walks ahead of her.
Thank you for your help.
Okay.
Trotting after Felian, Macklin starts picking up those markers that Felian's left behind.
Okay. And
I'm following.
as you head out into the night to face down whatever is going on, we're gonna call it.
Alright.
Alright.
Bum, bum.
I'm curious and excited. I've been wondering since the City of Brass just what the hell that was that got into our heads, and it feels like we're getting close to cutting that loose thread off.
Maybe.
Because I never thought it was Vecna directly.
I mean, there was that, pub we never got to go to that's run by that vampire type person that we never got to go to.
Because it got disappeared.
Yeah.
Oh wait, don't vampires fuck with? Oh no.
Strange, it left a hole and everything, kind of like, oh wait, you're not that far, never mind, I'm going to shut up now.
I'm on like episode 33?
Yeah, you're like 70 episodes behind, sorry, not 70.
I mean, I
40.
So
You're
I went
40
and read through
episodes
the
away from
wiki, so
finding it.
I'm pretty much spoiled on most things, but